Cultivating Human Spirit, a convention to be held in Tokyo, May 10 to 20. The theme was World Peace. Cultivating Human Spirit. Although his main interest had always been the US, if Japan presented itself first, why not? And their invitation was in English. If they accepted his reservation, they would pay for his board and lodging at the convention hotel, although he would have to pay his own travel expenses. Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote to the sponsors, the International Foundation for Cultural Harmony, and proposed a speech, "How should one cultivate human spirit?" The Secretary General of the Foundation, Mr. Toshihiro Nakano, wrote back to him at Keshigat, expressing his high regard both for Indian spiritual culture and for his proposal presentation. Mr. Nakano also enclosed an official certificate, as he had requested, stating that Bhaktivedanta Swami was a bona fide visitor to their convention, whose expenses in Japan would be, to whom it may concern, that his passport and visa be granted in time for his arrival in Japan. Bhaktivedanta Swami then conceived a special project for the convention. The 10th canto, 20th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam presents a description of autumn in Vrindavan. A seasonal phenomenon, the Bhagavatam presents a parallel teaching from the Vedas. For example, it compares the dark, cloudy evening of the rainy autumn season to the Kali, when the bright stars of Vedic wisdom, the saints and scriptures, are temporarily obscured by a godless civilization. The chapter contains dozens of such examples, and Bhaktivedanta Swami proposed 50 commentary illustrations to be displayed at the convention. He began preparing the commentaries, which he entitled The Light of Bhagavat. He wrote directions from which an artist could design a painting to go with each lesson from the picture. 50 pictures and commentaries Bhaktivedanta Swami felt would make an impressive display for visitors at the convention. The convention organized. As for your proposal to get pictures drawing by artists, according to the Department of the Congress will immediately take people disposal consideration of about some specimen idea of picture, which will be given to us by you, so I should like to get them as soon as possible. Bhaktivedanta Swami worked quickly to produce a 20,000 word manuscript, 50 lessons for 50 illustrations. The pictures were to depict the forest, fields, and skies of Vrindavan during the rainy season, and the lessons were sometimes criticisms of godless governments, materialists, and false religionists, sometimes assertions of moral principles and God consciousness, and sometimes depictions of Lord Krishna and his eternal associates in Vrindavan. Everything went smoothly between Bhaktivedanta Swami and the sponsors in Japan. The problem was to raise the travel fare. He approached the likely sources, writing to the central government's Ministry for Scientific Research and Cultural Affairs. He presented his certificate from Mr. Nakano and explained his position as the ministry sent him a form to complete and return. Time was getting short. On March 29, he wrote to the Vice President, Dr. Radhakrishna, with whom he had a speaking acquaintances. Japatma, or the human spirit. He also wrote the deputy manager of Scindia Navigation Company in Bombay, reminding him of his 1958 offer to give a 50% concession on a ticket to the United States. After explaining his invitation for Mr. Nakano in Japan, Bhaktivedanta Swami pointed out that the full round-trip fare to Japan would be less than half the fare to the United States. Trying all possibilities at once, and with less than a month and a half before the convention, he wrote to another potential donor, Mr. Ratan S. Mohata, who had once expressed his willingness to send Bhaktivedanta Swami to South America when an Indian sponsor there had written expressing interest. At that time, Bhaktivedanta Swami had been unable to get the proper certification from the Indian government. But here, he explained, was a new opportunity to present to an international gathering of interested people, and passage to Japan was less than to South America. On the same day, he wrote to Mr. Mohata. He also mailed his completed form to the Ministry for Scientific Research. In answer to their question as to why he was asking for, asked the ministry for any financial sannyasi, I can ask for financial help when there is absolute necessity. Our life is dedicated to render service to the humanity at large for reviving the dormant spiritual consciousness. Next.
Meanwhile, his other arranged operation from Japan, he had already sent Mr. Nakano the first illustrated ideas from the light of Bhagavad. Japan is famous for artistic work, he wrote, and India is famous for spiritual culture. We should now combine. He suggested they also print the text and picture as book. Mr. Nakano they would be eager to meet him at Haneda Airport. Would be readily recognizable since they would be holding a flag, and if he liked, he could stay in Japan for an entire month and hold local meetings after the scheduled convention. Mr. Nakano also asked a favor to a relationship with the mayor of three Japanese cities. He asked that Bhaktivedanta Swami send letters requesting the full support of Human Spirit Congress. Bhaktivedanta Swami immediately compiled. By now it was April and no money had come. Finally, after a personal interview in which he received a definite no from Dr. Radhakrishnan, Bhaktivedanta Swami turned to Mr. Nakano in a disappointment. On April 18th, he wrote, I am in due receipt of your letter on the 9th instant, and I am grateful to you for all that you have said for me. I am a humble creature and I'm just trying to do my bit in this connection because I was so ordered by my spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. While I am feeling too much you are doing for me, I beg to inform you that my passage expenses, which is near about rupees 3,500, is not yet settled. I submitted one application to the government of India for help, and the copy of an application is also sent herewith. I also wrote a private letter to Dr. Radhakrishnan in his connection, and the reply which I have received is also enclosed herewith. All these are not encouraging for me. I therefore saw the